A living species, by definition, is a group of individuals that share similar genetic and morphological attributes and are reproductively isolated from other such groups. The Earth is home to a vast number of incredibly complex species of plants, animals, and microorganisms, each living in its own habitat with its own beauty and importance. However, the exact number of species is still unknown. To date, around 1.7 million species have been named, and a total of 8.7 million distinct species have been predicted. But according to the best estimate of taxonomic experts, the actual number of species could be as high as 100 million. What is even more fascinating about these millions of species is that they not only differ from one another as species, but also exhibit remarkable variations within themselves as subspecies. And the number of these subspecies can range from just a few to tens of thousands, and each of those thousands will further vary within themselves too, which leads to an astonishing amount of variety. And this does not even include the 99% extinct species of the past, of which only 1% is alive today. All these living beings are collectively known as biodiversity, and in 1992 at the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, international initiatives were taken to protect the diversity of life on Earth. This huge variety of living beings makes one wonder how so many similar yet distinct species came to be and how they are also well adapted to their respective environments. Charles Darwin sought to answer this most fundamental question with the theory of evolution he proposed in 1859. According to his theory, all species that we see today are descended from a single primitive cell that gradually evolved to form different complex species. To prove this, Darwin cited some examples of what he had observed in England, where breeders by means of selective crossbreeding had developed cattle breeds of desired traits that differed slightly from their ancestors. He pursued the same logic and claimed this process of selection occurred in nature too, but by itself without the need of a breeder, and named it natural selection. By natural selection, he meant profitable traits arose in living beings over time due to environmental pressures, causing variations to accumulate to an unlimited extent, which then kept changing one species into another different one over the course of millions of years. However, in the time of Darwin, there was nothing known about genetics or DNA. The subsequent genetic discoveries, which Darwin hoped would prove his theory, actually posed a great scientific challenge to it. It was revealed through various scientific experiments that there are insuperable barriers between living beings that prevent one species from turning into another different one, and variations were shown to take place only within the extent of species' genetic makeup. It was therefore completely impossible for livestock breeders to transform new variations of cattle into entirely new species. Biologist Edward S. Dewey, an evolutionist himself, also acknowledged this fact, stating that remarkable things have been achieved through crossbreeding, but wheat is still wheat and not, for instance, grapefruit. This was a complete end to the theory of evolution from which it could never recover, but instead of accepting the scientific truth against the theory of evolution that species cannot change into different ones, a few geneticists who came to be known as neo-Darwinists began to look for a way to reconcile the theory of evolution with genetics. According to them, mutational changes in genetic information gave rise to new beneficial traits in species which were then selected by natural selection and caused new species to form. But all the observed mutations have always resulted in harm to the existing and well-functioning systems, and the amount of accurate, highly directed and symmetrical mutations are never scientifically possible to occur. Even the co-founder of neo-Darwinism, Ernst Mayr, felt it a strain on one's credulity to believe random mutations could give rise to well-balanced systems, but he continued to promote it despite himself not believing in it convincingly. Both of these evolutionary mechanisms, natural selection and mutations, have been unable to account for the vibrant and well-functioning diversity of life on Earth. On the other hand, the fossil record of past species, which is an important evidence of the history of life on Earth, shows astonishingly complex and fully formed creatures with no gradual change, a fact Darwin himself admitted in the chapter on geological imperfections. He said, "Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this perhaps is the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against my theory." That's indeed the truth. All fossils ever discovered reveal this important fact that all the living beings appeared on Earth fully formed, with no transitional forms before or after. The multicellular and one-of-a-kind Ediacaran life form 600 million years ago appeared on Earth suddenly and fully formed. They had no transitional ancestors living before. The Cambrian life forms 500 million years ago were astonishingly complex, with biological systems not different from modern-day living beings. They too had no ancestors living before. Even Darwin had no satisfactory answers to explain Cambrian life forms, and many scientists still consider it a mystery. with famous Richard Dawkins stating they look as though they were just planted there without any evolutionary history. Examples of living fossils also completely refute the theory of evolution. The horseshoe crab from 450 million years ago looks exactly the same as the one living today. The coelacanth from 400 million years ago, which evolutionists try to use as a proof of transitional form between fish and reptile, was discovered in the same form in the deep sea, without having undergone any form of evolution. This has been the case with all the species ever appeared on Earth. No species has ever changed into different species at all, nor has it ever been possible, for that would require new and accurate genetic information for systems and organs, and there is no mechanism in nature that could bestow such complex and marvelous systems upon any living being. The important truth that we understand from scientific findings is that each species has been created independently with all its survival capabilities and perfect features, and they only vary to the extent their genetic makeup allows, which keeps the species similar to its own yet restrictively distinct from others. This distinction is present in their genes and becomes more pronounced when members of the same species become geographically isolated. Then the population, which was once unified, gets genetically divided and continues to expand from there, but again only within the genetic limits. These subspecies, when gets to reunite, may not interbreed for behavioral reasons, but are still genetically compatible and remain the same species. The different varieties of the same species or subspecies may appear at various points suitable. The finch variation, which is often used to prove so-called microevolution, is an example of these natural biological variations, and there are hundreds of different types of finches in the world. Similarly, there are many subspecies of other living beings as well. Cyanobacteria, the first photosynthetic organisms on Earth, has still more than 2,000 subspecies, and each of these subspecies has many of its variations too. The extinct trilobites 500 million years ago had 22,000 subspecies already in the beginning. The orchid plant, dating back to 55 million years, has now around 28,000 different subspecies. Among insects, for example, there are 52,000 species of spiders alone. The information for all these subvariations is written in their total gene pool, and humans, for example, have races, and each race has its own variations, but nonetheless all of them are still humans and will always remain so genetically. So neither the evolutionary tree of life nor the evolution of different species is true. All of them is a lie promoted in the name of science just to avoid accepting the independent origin of species, only because that would mean creation by God. But science should be told the way it is, otherwise it would be a great injustice to living beings, to students, and to science itself. I hope people and governments will realize this important scientific truth and won't allow teaching the false theory of evolution as a scientific fact, but only as a hypothesis that has been completely refuted by modern scientific discoveries.